Hello, everybody, and welcome back to SEC Roundup. I'm Nick Morgan, the co-founder and president of ICANN, Investor Choice Advocates Network, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-founder, co-host, Tom Zucchero. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Nick. How are you today?
I'm doing well. And we are very pleased to have on as our guest today, Ira Wiener. Ira is an accountant in New York who is the subject of a pending SEC administrative proceeding. Ira, thank you so much for joining.
You're quite welcome.
So the reason we want to talk to you today, Ira, is because of something odd that happened in your matter. But before we get to that, and I'm going to ask you some questions about it, let me just set a little context. So first of all, we're talking about an SEC administrative proceeding, and actually several administrative proceedings against accountants. These are proceedings under a particular provision that are referred to in the business as 102E proceedings. And I want to make clear that this conversation is happening in a certain context here in the United States. There was a Forbes article not too long ago that said the U.S. has a shortage of accountants by over 300,000 accountants. In other words, for lots of different reasons, we have a shortage of accountants. And so these 102E proceedings against accountants take on perhaps more importance in that context. Ira, in your case, which was begun by the SEC 2 years ago, approximately, it included allegations against you, unproven allegations, I might point out, that you lacked independence for certain of the audits you conducted. One of the audits was a Reg A or Regulation A offering, which again, for context, not all Regulation A offerings of securities even require audited financials. So I think this particular audit takes on that color as well. But in any event, the SEC alleged, the SEC Enforcement Division alleged that you lacked independence for a couple of the audits that you conducted years ago now, 2017, 18, 19, in that time frame. And then as I read the case file, it looks like that case languished for the last 2 years. And something happened recently, and that's what we want to talk about. So what happened recently in your case?
I guess about a month or so ago, I got a notice in the mail that my case was dismissed. It didn't give any reason why, just said it was dismissed. And, you know, it was nice that after so many years that I wasn't being fined for trying to help my client. But at the same time, I was sort of unhappy that I wasn't vindicated, that I didn't do anything wrong. So if somebody reads about me, they're not going to understand or feel that I was vindicated, that I was found innocent.
And let's talk about that a little bit. So 2 years ago, the SEC makes allegations. Here we are in 2024. There's never been a trial or administrative hearing where a trier of fact, like a judge or a jury, decided whether the SEC's allegations were true or not. Despite the fact that these remain unproven allegations, what is the impact of this pending administrative proceeding had on you professionally and personally?
Professionally, I lost a few clients, but I didn't pick up any new clients in the past several years once this proceeding started. And, reading into what they put on Google about me, it looks like I committed a felony. If I was hiring an accountant, whether he was innocent or not, if there's something negative about him on Google, I wouldn't hire that accountant to handle my finances or taxes. Just the fact that I was on Google with negative publicity, certainly didn't help me. I mean, I conducted my life professionally and personally on a handshake. If I give my word to somebody, regardless of the financial impact, I keep my word. My integrity is more important than anything else. And they besmirched my integrity.
And as a professional, obviously your integrity, your reputation, that is your business. That's
Right.
what you are bringing to market. And so, Tom, Mr. Wiener's situation is not isolated. I mean, it would be sort of remarkable if it were isolated. He gets a letter out of the blue with no explanation saying the enforcement division wants to, is requesting to dismiss his action. But as you and I know, Mr. Wiener's situation is not isolated. It appears that there have been a number of these. So, and as far as I know, there has been no explanation forthcoming from the SEC or the enforcement division about why these actions are being requested to be dismissed. So what's going on, and what do you think is likely to happen next if you were to read the tea leaves?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And Ira, I understand the pain you've suffered from this. You know, we understand yours is not the only case which has been, for which the Division of Enforcement has requested dismissal. There are 8 cases altogether. And just like with you, all of these accounts deserve vindication. And because, you know, when the SEC starts a case, it's with a shout and it goes away with a whisper. And your reputation, the reputations of the other 7 accountants have been dragged to the mud. And now we know that the SEC doesn't want to pursue these cases. We have no transparency whatsoever from the commission as to why they decided not to pursue them. I think we can all speculate, all the lawyers can speculate, that the decisions of the Supreme Court, which limited the powers of ALJs and limited administrative proceedings, have been noticed at the SEC, and they're doing this to avoid even a worse outcome. The sanction they sought against Ira and others was under 102E of the rules of practice of the SEC, which says they can ban you from practicing before the commission if you're an accountant or a lawyer. I think that in these cases, everyone would have argued that that's punitive, that 102E sanction is punitive, and that would have put them in the Jarchesi right to jury trial matrix. So I think the SEC did not want a finding, and does not want a finding, that a 102E proceeding is punitive, and therefore walked away from all these cases. And as I said earlier, all of these respondents in these cases are entitled to vindication. So what happens going forward? Who knows? I don't think there's a way for the SEC to clean up the administrative proceedings in a way that will satisfy the Jarchesi decision. So I think, but I also think that the commission will continue to bring 102E proceedings, or at least try to get the relief that they're entitled to, that they would be entitled to if they prevailed in a 102E proceeding. So my best guess is they're going to pursue accountants in federal court, try to get injunctions which have the same scope as a 102E order, or get the injunction and then go to an administrative law judge with the injunction and say, grant us a 102E because we've got an injunction in federal court.
Yeah, interesting. And I noticed in the SEC's administrative proceedings, there have been a couple of settled 102Es more recently than these dismissal letters came out. So I guess
We'll still settle them.
Right.
And look, if it means that the SEC recognizes they've got to go to federal court, it's a big win for people like Ira and for the defense bar, who have always taken the position that these cases should be tried in a federal court before a federal judge with the federal rules of civil procedure and the federal rules of evidence before a jury. And that's what Ira was entitled to. That's what all these people who were improperly charged by the SEC in administrative proceedings are entitled to. And I mean, look, we as defense lawyers would be much happier to have the transparency of federal court and the protections of federal court.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we'll wait and see. Ira, in your matter, I hope the commission takes the enforcement division's motion seriously and dismisses your action. I also hope that they put out a press release with the same amount of fanfare announcing your case dismissal as they did when they announced the initiation of your case, although I won't hold my breath. But anyway, we wish you well. We'll check back in and see what happens with regard to your case. In the meantime, Ira, thank you very much for being on. Tom,
Quite
thank
welcome.
you as well. And for everyone else, if you want more information about ICANN, it's at icanlaw.org, and we'll see you on the next SEC Roundup.